Let's watch some clips of Mehdi Hasan on Piers Morgan's show with an ex-IDF member sounding off about the genocide in the Middle East, Israel's escalation into Lebanon, where he makes a range of insightful points as he usually does, and it gets a bit heated, which is also usual with the subject matter, so we'll line these up one by one and knock them out with context.
One is, a lot of those groups you mentioned have all said that their fighting with Israel is tied to what's happening in Gaza. Many of them have offered the Houthis, Iran, and I said this to you, Piers, last time I came on the show, and you said, how can we trust them? I said, don't trust them, but call their bluff. They've all said, you end the genocide in Gaza, you end the violence in Gaza, you get a ceasefire, and we will stop fighting with Israel.
Which genocide?
NBC
the one
News
that Hamas started on the 7th? The genocide that Hamas started on the 7th?
The genocide that your country is being investigated. Can I finish a sentence? The genocide that your country is being investigated for the International Court of Justice right now.
Okay, a couple points to make here, but Mehdi is exactly right about those groups, and I think it speaks to a subconscious bias that is present in America, or in the West at large, really, where if one of our allies are attacked, we're going to stand with them. I mean, if it's a NATO country, we're even going to put our soldiers on the ground to help them per Article 5, but when it's Arab countries that are standing together, it's, oh, they're just terrorists doing terrorism, we can't trust them, whatever the talking point might be, when they're just doing the exact same thing that we would do. And the second point is, I think it's laughably stupid to say that October 7th was a genocide, where 1,200 total people died, around 700 civilians died, and we know things like the Hannibal Directive being in order, so it's not even confirmed how many died at the hands of Hamas, little to no cultural damage was caused on the day, etc., etc. But then say what Israel is doing definitely isn't a genocide when over 40,000 Palestinians are killed. If we're saying that 700 died on October the 7th, 25 times that is the number of just children that Israel has killed since then. Over $300 million of cultural damage has happened in Gaza. Hospitals, schools, every hospital destroyed, the majority of schools destroyed, graveyards have been wiped out, 60% of Gaza has been leveled. It kind of just shows the clear bias to say, well, anything Arabs do bad equals genocide, but anything Israel does, even when it's over a year later from the attack on them and Hamas leadership has largely been decimated, they're still fully absolved of any wrongdoing.
40 countries put out a statement, including many of your own allies, including Hungary, one of the most pro-Israeli countries in Europe, saying stop attacking UN peacekeepers. These are not dark anti-Semitic forces. You can't keep playing an anti-Semitism card and undermining the very real struggle against anti-Semitism by using it to defend a government that is full of some of the most racist people, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-Christian people on the face of this planet. You a spokesman for a government that contains people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, open racists, prosecuted for inciting terrorism. So we're going to talk about lectures. You should keep your lectures to yourself and be embarrassed for the government you served. As for you living in the region, the problem is not you living in the region. The problem is the army you served and the country you were a spokesman for illegally occupies other people's lands in the West Bank, in Gaza, in the Golan Heights, now in Lebanon again. You are the country that is illegally occupying other people's lands. It's not about you living in your homes, it's about you taking other people's homes. It's about Israel now aiming to annex Gaza, according to SHREDS this week, that Netanyahu no longer has any interest in saving the hostages, as he never did, and is eyeing annexation of Gaza, to quote the Israeli newspaper Haaretz.
He's right here as well. Historically unwavering pro-Israeli countries are coming out to speak out against Israel because of the war crimes they're committing and because they're creating humanitarian crisis in now multiple countries, right? First Gaza for a year now, but then also Lebanon as of recent as well. And they've done this historically to both countries as well. I mean, if we're being honest, but Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper, came out speaking out against the Israeli government. B'Tselem, an Israeli human rights organization, has came out and said that Israel has committed numerous war crimes, and including inducing starvation upon Palestinians. Tens of thousands of Israelis are protesting in the streets of Israel the actions of its government. Groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, there's an entire young Jewish left movement coming out against Israel, as well as all of them coming together to say, hey, like, what the Israeli government is doing is wrong, right? So equating the reaction to that people are having to a genocide and other war crimes to being just simple anti-Semitism, when, again, plenty of Israeli groups, plenty of Jewish organizations are coming out as well. It's to undermine the actual anti-Semitism that is a real problem in the world. And second, to undermine the standard of humanitarian law that we hope to hold at an international level. I mean, if any country can come out and say, well, it's prejudice or bias against us when there's people speaking out about the clear-cut evidence of war crimes, I mean, what is the point of having international law?
In northern Lebanon, 23 people bombed by your military, 2 babies killed, Jonathan. That is what you stand for. You serve the IDF, the Israeli military, which, as I say, is being investigated at the ICJ, and the ICC. You serve a military that has been credibly accused by the United Nations just last week by Israeli media, which showed videos of mass rape of Palestinian detainees. The New York Times this week reported that your military sent children, Palestinian children, as human shields into booby-trapped tunnels and buildings. Is that what you did, Jonathan? Can you tell us today, did you ever send a Palestinian child as a human shield into a tunnel? Because the New York Times is saying your military did that. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the UN Human Rights Office, UNICEF, UNHCR, Save the Children, World Food Programme, WHO, Doctors Without Borders, I can keep going, Refugees International, International Rescue, they all, Care International, Christian Aid, Physicians for Human Rights, they all say the Israeli military is to blame for the casualties, for the killing of innocent people, for not giving warnings, for bombing civilian targets, and for starving the people of northern Gaza.
And this is where we get to the point where it's clear that anyone who is staunchly pro-Israel in this conflict cannot at all be living in reality. No matter what evidence is put before them, they're just going to discredit it and try to attack the validity rather than engage in the reality, which is eerily similar to what MAGA does with pretty much everything in America. I think they embody this more than anyone else, but a lot of Zionists do as well, where all these human rights organizations, all these humanitarian organizations with decades-long records of credibility, no bias towards any country and not political in any sense, are saying that these war crimes are happening, like Oxfam, for instance, right? Decades of being a credible source, reports on multiple conflicts around the world, long has been regarded as one of the most credible international organizations, but now it's just, oh, well, Oxfam and all these other humanitarian organizations just hate Israel. They're anti-Semitic. Doctors go into Gaza, they come back, they recount the atrocities that they personally witnessed firsthand. They have like x-rays, CT scans, they have videos of this happening. And it's, well, how can we character assassinate these people and what lies can we make up to justify what they're saying or to just say it didn't happen? We have to discount all of this somehow, but what we're supposed to believe is the Israeli government and nobody else, by the way, just the Israeli government that has been caught lying on multiple accounts, from beheaded babies to calendars and hospitals with deaths marked and cutting off body parts. It's really asinine, to say the least. And I just hope that we can finally close the chapter on having to watch a genocide unfold before our eyes and get some sort of peaceful resolution in the area.